Oh, do I have a treat for you today. We're going to go up here and we're going to meet someone very, very special. By the way, it is the day before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. And because of that, we're going to talk about envy and jealousy and happiness. Just so we're clear, jealousy is love and hate combined. Love and hate combined, that is jealousy, right? I love what someone else has, and I hate that they have it, and I don't. As a father of twins, be careful about comparing yourself to other people. Be careful about comparisons in general. My twin boys, they're not the same. They're identical twins, but they're their own unique people, right? So don't be comparative. You'd be surprised how many leaders and executives and highly influential people that I work with who are always comparing themselves to others, and it just steals their happiness. It really does. It inhibits their performance. Always on their mind, always struggling to be happy. So don't be comparative. Now, you can be competitive. That's a little bit different. But don't be comparative. So let's talk about happiness for a second. I'm going to introduce two studies to you. First is University of Pennsylvania. They do a study with a group of severely depressed people. Severely depressed is a category on the depression spectrum. It is the extremely depressed people, the highest level you can get. These folks are so depressed. We're almost up here to the guy here, by the way. They are so depressed that they can barely get out of bed. So they hold this experiment, and they ask the participants in the experiment to, listen, at the end of every day, just write down. Don't think about it, okay? We don't want you to just memorize it or meditate on it. We want you to write it down, keep a little journal of 3 things that happened that day that were good. Find them. It may be a rough day, but you got to find 3 things that happened that were good that day. Write them down. At the end of 15 days, get this now, at the end of 15 days, this group of severely depressed people reported that their depression lifted. 94% of them said that they were only now mildly depressed. Imagine that, just by focusing on the good. How about we talk about happiness? Let's go to the other side of the country, University of California. Oh, here's our guy. Yes, is this him? This is him. All right, so University of California, Riverside. 2 very prominent psychologists do a study as to what determines happiness. They find that there are 3 things. One of them you cannot control. It is your genetics. Some people are just more predisposed to being happier. A lot of my clients will say, Chris, you always seem happy. Yeah, I try to be. Your circumstances also, they found, determine your happiness. Where you live, are you rich, are you poor? All those things determine your happiness. Interestingly enough, while 50% of your happiness is genetics, only 10% of your happiness is attributed to your circumstances. Interesting. In fact, another study showed that they looked at a group of Americans. These Americans made $10 million. They're the rich, right? They made $10 million each year. And they compared them to blue-collar workers. And get this, the rich folks were only slightly happier than the blue-collar workers. So circumstances and money don't really influence happiness all that much. Just 10%. The last category of happiness is the best one. 40% of your happiness comes down to your attitude and your actions. Here, let's get out of the car. We'll go meet this guy. Bear with me as we get out of here. Make sure that's in park. Your attitude and your actions. So, they look at this and they say, well, what does that mean, attitude and actions? These folks, they, in spite of their circumstances, in spite of their genetics, these folks went to the gym once a week. They actively sought to help people. They found pleasure in trying to bring other people up. They spent a lot of time with family and friends, being Thanksgiving, something to focus on. They also pursued lifelong values and ambitions, right? Becoming a great photographer, becoming something, right? They loved to learn, they loved to grow. They were also very grateful people. They savored moments and focused on what was good. This guy, by the way, your treat. A treat for me. A lawyer. An HR executive, in fact, recognized as one of the top HR executives in the country. You know, the UFC, he was an influencer within the UFC community. Got to meet Dana White, knows all the fighters, had communications with them, not just as a fan, but he actually worked in the industry. Just a very eclectic career. Family guy, two great kids. I want to introduce to you someone very special to me. This is my brother, Jonathan. Jonathan is no longer here. 2 years ago, he was killed in a car accident. No fault of his own. And what I would give to have another day with this guy. People think that I'm a pretty happy person. They don't always realize what's behind all that. That's okay. It's okay. In fact, one of the things they found in that study was that happy people, they weren't without pain, and they weren't without crisis, and they weren't without stress. They had all of that stuff. But it was the attitude and actions that they chose and practiced in light of the pain that allowed them to be so happy. Gratefulness, spending time with family, and choosing your attitude and actions has an awful lot to do with happiness, according to the research and science, and according to me. So happy Thanksgiving. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for what you had. And be grateful that how happy you are is something that you get to greatly influence and choose each and every day. Happy Thanksgiving.